Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are strapping in for a pretty high-velocity look at a real-world stress test.
Yeah, the kind that really sorts the wheat from the chaff, technologically speaking.
Exactly. We're looking at the Solana network specifically, and, well, the moment it really faced its biggest trial by fire.
Right, that defining moment. It happened around October 11th, 2025. And what we're digging into with our source material, it's not some lab test.
No.
This is how the network reacted to some really severe global market turbulence. We need to see, did the tech hold up when people really needed it?
And the setup for this, I mean, it was just pure market carnage, wasn't it? The pressure wasn't faked. It was real financial chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Our sources point to this massive liquidation event, something like, $597.83 million liquidated in just 24 hours leading up to that morning.
It was brutal, a really brutal day. And the triggers, well, the research points to Bitcoin having this huge correction. You remember after it hit that all-time high around $125,000?
Oh, yeah. Vaguely painful memory.
Uh-huh. And then compounding that, you had this institutional factor, or at least alleged factor, these rumors of a big BTC sale, maybe by someone like BlackRock.
Right.
And when those things collided, well, panic just ripped through the decentralized markets.
I remember watching the charts just bleeding everywhere. It felt like total mayhem,
Yeah.
Exactly the kind of volatility that makes blockchains just buckle.
Yep.
So the whole crypto market's hitting the brakes hard. What was the single most incredible thing the sources highlighted about Solana actually staying functional through that?
Well, the metric that just jumps out, it's transaction throughput. Despite, nearly $600 million being liquidated, which means tons of demand for instant execution from DeFi protocols.
Right.
The Solana network apparently stayed completely stable, and the core dev team, Anza, they reported the network hit this staggering peak processing rate.
Yeah.
100,000 transactions per second, TPS.
Man, 100,000 TPS. I mean, that sounds amazing, but let's be real.
Yeah.
The network has had stability issues, downtimes in the past.
Yeah.
How sure are we this wasn't just some, brief cherry-picked peak they're shouted about for marketing?
That's a really fair question. And the sources actually provide some backup for it. This isn't just some number pulled out of thin air.
Okay.
They point back to a previous real-world load test. This was back in August 2025, where the network actually clocked 107,540 TPS.
Oh, interesting.
So that 100,000 TPS figure during the crash, it seems like it's within its demonstrative capability, not just a one-off blip.
Okay. Let's unpack that 100,000 TPS number then. Because for you, listening, that scale, it can be hard to really wrap your head around it until we compare it.
Right.
This isn't just fast for blockchain, is it?
No, not at all. It kind of puts Solana in its own league almost. If you look at the competition, I mean, take Ethereum. Its peak TPS is usually quoted somewhere between, 15 and 30?
15 to 30.
Yeah.
Compared to 100,000.
Yeah. So Solana, under this immense pressure, was running literally thousands of times faster.
And forget crypto for a sec. We often compare to traditional finance giants, right? The big one is Visa. Huge volumes, but their peak is like 24,000 TPS.
Around that, yeah.
And Solana hit 100,000 TPS while all this money was being liquidated through DeFi apps like Serum and Radium on-chain.
And that's the key takeaway, right? The speed wasn't just a number. It meant timely liquidations. It meant preventing arbitrage failures. It meant processing these complex DeFi strategies right when the market was going haywire.
So it really proved it could handle those high-frequency demands, the kind institutional players supposedly need.
Exactly. It confirms that capability.
Okay, so that immediately shifts the conversation. We get the result of crazy speed under pressure. But now the question is how? How did the system actually manage that without grinding to a halt? What tech specifically handled that volume?
Right. Well, the stability story really seems to center on the specific validator client being used. It's called Agave.
Agave.
Yeah, think of Agave as the sort of turbocharged engine validating the transactions. The developer team, Anza, confirmed that this client managed to handle, get this, 6 times the usual peak traffic during the crash.
6 times?
6 times, and apparently without any noticeable performance drop.
Wow. Okay, 6 times the usual traffic. That implies a massive buffer, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if we kind of work backwards from that 6x surge, it means the normal peak traffic before the chaos was already pretty high, like around 16,000, 70,000 TPS.
Exactly. Somewhere around 16,667 TPS seems like the implied base peak, which is already impressive.
Definitely.
And to handle that surge, Agave really pushed its limits. The source notes, it processed 60 million compute units CU per block.
Compute units, right. That's like the gas, they were the transaction cost metric on Solana.
Sort of, yeah. Think of it like the transactional fuel gauge for a block. The standard maximum is usually closer to 48 million CU.
Okay.
So Agave wasn't just coping, it was actively maximizing its capacity, running well beyond the typical limit.
But how does it move all that computational weight so fast? That must speak to the underlying architecture, right? The whole proof of history, POH, working with proof of stake.
Correct. Yeah, the stability really validates that model. POS secures the network, sure, but POH is the secret sauce here for speed.
Right.
It functions like this shared undeniable clock, a verifiable delay function. So instead of nodes wasting time arguing about the order or timing of transactions.
They just look at the POH timestamp.
Exactly. POH provides this cryptographic proof of time passing, which lets transactions be processed in parallel incredibly quickly. That's what keeps the engine running so efficiently, even under load.
And this wasn't just baseline performance, was it? This level of resilience, it was boosted by recent upgrades. What did they improve in the Agave clients, specifically in the v2.3 updates? That helped.
Yeah, those updates were apparently critical, especially for these huge spikes. They mentioned a new TPU client that's key for actually processing the incoming stream of transactions,
Go ahead.
and also measures to reduce disk I/O.
Less disk I/O. Okay, for those of us maybe less familiar with the server side of things, why is minimizing disk input-output so crucial for a high-speed system like this?
Well, simply put, it means the system spends less time waiting around to read or write data from storage, like a hard drive or SSD.
Ah, okay. So less waiting, more processing.
Precisely. If your engine doesn't have to constantly pause to fetch data from a slower component, the transaction processing can be much closer to instantaneous. So these improvements together, they really facilitate that high throughput. And importantly, they also help with multi-client resiliency.
Which is key for the long term, avoiding single points of failure.
Absolutely.
Now, in the spirit of, a full picture, we should mention the minor snag. While the network overall did absorb the shock incredibly well, the sources do note there were some scattered reports. A few users experiencing failed transactions.
That's right, yeah. It seems the core absorption mechanism held, but right at the edges, for some individual users during those extreme peaks, there were minor hiccups reported. But I think the critical point remains. The system didn't crash. It stayed fully functional. And it validated, almost $600 million worth of liquidations under fire.
Yeah, that context is important. Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting for me. The competitive angle. Surviving this kind of stress test, hitting 100K TPS, that's not just a tech spec. It's a huge confidence signal, potentially a marketing weapon. What does this do for Solana against everyone else?
Well, it creates a pretty stark quantifiable gap, doesn't it? We already talked about Ethereum's 1530 TPS.
Right.
But even if you look at other chains known for speed, like Avalanche, they typically clock in around, 4,500 TPS?
4,500. Still miles behind 100,000.
Exactly. Solana just seems to be operating in a completely different dimension of scale during moments like these, and that really matters for developers choosing where to build.
So this really proves Solana isn't just some ambitious idea anymore. It's now, demonstrably a high-performance chain that's actually suitable for the really demanding stuff.
Yeah.
Not just sending tokens, but high-frequency DeFi, big NFT marketplaces, complex games that need persistence.
Absolutely. And enduring this massive liquidation event without a service interruption, that builds huge confidence, both for devs thinking about building on Solana and maybe more importantly, for users trusting it with their assets. Reliability during chaos is kind of the ultimate test.
And we're seeing progress on structural resilience too, right? That multi-client approach you mentioned, Agave is strong, sure, running over 13% of the stake now. But the competitor client, FireDancer, that's already operating 8%, that diversification, that helps prevent a single bug taking everything down.
Yeah, that's crucial progress towards long-term network health and avoiding those single points of failure. More redundancy is always good.
Okay, and what about the money side? Did the sources touch on financial implications? Does this kind of performance translate into, bullishness?
They suggest it does, logically. I mean, demonstrating this kind of technical prowess, especially during a market crash, it significantly strengthens the perception of the platform. So yeah, the thinking is it should lead to more bullish sentiment for the actual Solana token. The foundation's been stress tested, and it held up remarkably well.
Okay, so let's try and wrap up this deep dive. The key takeaway seems clear. Solana really proved its technical chops here. It maintained stability, world-class stability, and hit that 100,000 TPS throughput during arguably the biggest market shock test it's ever faced.
Yeah, so what does this all mean for you, the listener?
Well, it strongly suggests that the Agave client successfully handled loads that many thought were, frankly, impossible for a decentralized network.
Yeah.
It really cements Solana's position, at least technologically, at the forefront of high-frequency blockchain design.
But, this raises one last kind of provocative question to leave you with. While the sources clearly frame this technical win as bullish for Solana,
They also explicitly say that Bitcoin's volatility will still likely dominate short-term price trends. So the question is, if a network proves its stability and speed in the middle of an extreme crash, how long can that external market sentiment driven by things like BTC's price swings? How long can that override demonstrable proven technical superiority?
that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How much does the tech matter versus the broader market mood?
Definitely something to keep an eye on the next time the market starts to bleed again.